This week on the show, we're going to take a look at MLG Columbus Groups A and B. Virtus.Pro are still in trouble, and there are roster changes in North America. I'm Jack Westerman, joined by Jason Moses O'Toole, and let's kick things off with a frag clip. This week's clip is SK versus Fnatic at the 2012 Intel Challenge, where Get Right scores 4 pistol kills in the grand final. SK would sweep Fnatic 2-0, winning the tournament on home soil. Because the prize was winner takes all, SK took home the entire $10,000 check. Our first story this week is the MLG Columbus Major, which obviously takes place in Columbus, Ohio, between the 29th and 31st of March. Now, Jason, this is the first Valve-sponsored major with a $1 million prize pool. So, $500,000 up for grab in first place. And it's also actually the first major to be held in the United States. So, win-win for you guys over there. So, as we get groups A and B up on screen, we'll see Group A is Luminosity, NiP, Mousesports, and Flipside. And Group B is FaZe, Fnatic, Splyce, and Liquid. Now, having a look at Group A, first of all, Jason, we'll see Luminosity there at the top. These guys, I guess you'd consider them a top 5, maybe a top 3 team in the world based on their recent performances. They lost in the IEM Katowice final. Surely these guys are a lock to win this group, he said confidently.
Yeah, no, they definitely are. They shouldn't have any issues advancing. I also think they're, I wouldn't say a lock, but I'd say it's highly probable they go out in first in their group. It's kind of the rest of the group that's going to have a battle for second place. But yeah, Luminosity, definitely recently you'd put them in top 3. There's no issue saying that. Probably with Fnatic and Navi. But yeah, from this group, they should be all good to go.
All right, well, let's talk about some of the challenges. So first off the bat, we've got Ninjas in Pajamas. Now, these guys have been pretty quiet since they picked up Pith. They've only played in the Game Show Cup and IEM Katowice, which were both kind of mixed bags. At Katowice, they actually got knocked out in group play. They finished 2 and 3. However, if you look at their online play, specifically ESL's Pro League, they're currently 9 and 1. They're in second place over there. So, really mixed bag for these guys. Which Ninjas in Pajamas roster is going to show up to this major?
The same one we got. I mean, I don't really think that, despite them going out in group play and losing, or going 2 and 3 in Katowice, I actually thought that they looked impressive considering the amount of time they'd had with Threat, their recent form before Katowice, and online. I think they're very good as well. They're changing a lot of things. So to me, they're actually pretty scary. I have Luminosity and NiP going out in this group. I think NiP's going to actually, by the time the major rolls around, be a pretty solid contender in the quarterfinals. I don't know if they'll. It depends on who they're going to face in that, but I have NiP being a pretty good team coming into the major, who could definitely challenge. I mean, they took a map off Luminosity in Katowice. They obviously still have the skill. It's all about, are they going to be confident enough in the tactical side of things that they're putting together right now. But with Threat, these guys have looked better and better to me as time has gone on.
Okay, well, let's quickly touch on Mousesports and Flipside, and then I'll ask you, I guess, which of those 3 is likely to finish second. So Mousesports, the third team in this group, they won the qualifier for this event, which won them the place. They beat Hellraisers and Team YP to get there. They've got a slightly unusual move. They've picked up 2 coaches for this event and seem to be looking in good form, I think it's fair to say. They've won something like 21 matches, lost 15 in the last 3 months, so in good form. Is this, does this group present a good chance for them to advance, do you think?
Not necessarily. I mean, no more so than other groups, perhaps, although Fnatic and FaZe would have been tough as well. But I think that Mousesports is just that team where, yeah, they look good at times, but you still have to say, like, Nico's their big star. They have a lot of really scary question marks. Is Nex going to step up beside him? What level is Chris J going to be at? Because he's been in a massive slump. There's still some scary things about this team that worry me going into the major for them to get out of this group. I think NIP's going to be a huge problem for them. I don't think they have a chance of beating Luminosity unless Nico has another one of those matches where he gets like 48 kills. That's the big thing, right? It's always about Nico with Mouse Sports, and then you're just hoping somebody steps up to a certain degree next to him. And it hasn't been Chris J lately. He's dealing with a massive slump and huge confidence issues. And Next doesn't really do it with any kind of consistency. So they're pretty worrying right now. And in the form they're at, despite, some good performances here and there, they just don't look consistent enough to have any kind of reliability in this group.
I guess it sounds like you're leaning towards Luminosity and NIP making out of this group.
Yeah, I definitely am. I think NIP will beat Mouse Sports. They could beat Luminosity, but I don't think so. I don't think they will. But I definitely have Luminosity going out first and NIP going out second.
Okay, well, let's leave Group A there. Let's move over to Group B. So this is the second of 4 groups here at the Columbus Major. We'll cover the next 2 groups in next week's show, but for now, let's run through Group B. So this is FaZe, Fnatic, Splyce, and Liquid, 2 North American teams in the same group, which is either fortunate, unfortunate, I guess depends how you look at it. But obviously, Fnatic, it's hard to look at this group and ignore them, right? So they're on that phenomenal hot streak. They're still the best team in the world by a long way, I think it's fair to say. Jason, we can see these stats, right? So they're plus 474 kill death overall in the 3 months so far this year. They've got a 1.09 team rating, and they've won IEM Katowice, Barcelona Star Series finals. Everything is working for these guys, right? Is there any way they don't win this group, Jason?
No. But
good answer.
I will say this. This is kind of where it gets intriguing because Fnatic has been so dominant, but I still think there are cracks and weaknesses starting to show in this squad, despite what everything looks like and the fact that they've won everything. But they still do struggle in groups. They are beatable in best of ones. It remains to be seen. Can like a team like Liquid or FaZe? I don't think Splyce has a chance, but Liquid, you never know. Like maybe Simple goes nuts. We've seen those maps against Fnatic where Nitro goes nuts, like carries his team through a half, and they might lose like 16-14, 16-13, but that could easily be a loss for them. So there is a world in which they take a loss early on and come out second. But I doubt it. But it is very possible, especially with the strengths of someone like FaZe, Rain, AZ, any of these guys capable of going off, and like I said, Fnatic sometimes getting slow starts in events in their group stages. They're a team also right now whose T sides against top teams, which there aren't any in this group, but against top teams, their T sides are a little bit at times bogged down, and if you can get up on them 5-6-0 and just survive some of those force buys, then you're going to have a big half. We saw it with Luminosity at the Katowice finals. The trick is going up against their CT side, because it is that when Fnatic first started being dominant, like last year, it was just off boss CT sides, and then they just did enough on their terror sides, and they seem to be kind of back to that form. Maybe it's because they lose their tactician in Pronax that this is starting to catch up to them. But their CT sides lately have been sick, but you can still kind of exploit their T sides.
Okay, well, you mentioned Simple and Liquid earlier in that answer, so let's jump down and talk about them. One of the 2 North American teams in this group. They finished in second place with their qualifier with Adren, but I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, right? Adren wasn't exactly looking bad in that tournament. I finished second statistically behind Hiko, I think. So definitely not a weak link. Coming into this tournament, how likely are Liquid to make it through here?
Not likely. They're
really?
good. Yeah, I don't favor them to go out in this group, and I think a lot of it is because this roster change, this entire ordeal that it's been of, picking up Kusta and not being able to use him, and then coming back to Adren. They also shopped to see if there were anyone but Adren could have played for them, and they were looking for anyone to do it, and it just doesn't work out. So then they have to go back to him sheepishly and be like, "Yeah, we know we cut you. Yeah, we know we looked at 5 other options before bringing you back, but please come back and play with us for the major." And he obviously says yes. So it's good on him there. But I don't see them. It's a factor of him coming in. We saw he maybe feel a little bit loosened up with the major qualifier, had some much better games. but Hiko's calling now, which is like he's in a new calling experience, especially against the level of opponents he's going against here. I think there's a lot of things going up against these guys that I don't see them overcoming to pass on, because FaZe, while not any kind of like world beater, I think still extremely talented team. They play really, really well against the top tier teams in Europe, even though they don't have like the best record or anything like that. But I think definitely Fnatic and probably FaZe is just too much to handle. It's all going to come down to whether Simple's just going to explode, or if Nitro is going to have one of those games. Other than that, I don't see them making it out.
The other thing we should say is we shouldn't feel too sorry for Adren, right? Because he is getting sticker money from the event. It's his incentive to play, right?
Sticker money, signature money, prize money as well. Like, yeah, I mean, no worries there.
Well, that brings us nicely on to the last two teams of this group, because we do have FaZe and Splyce as the last two. And it's interesting to me that you've picked FaZe over Liquid, given that FaZe are 6 for 11 in the last 3 months. They've only won a third of the games they've played, and Splyce are 12 for 19. Sure you don't want to change that answer, Jason? Maybe? No?
Yeah, 100% sure. I mean, look at. I mean, like that statistic of how good.
You just think they're better head to head.
Well, look at the quality of competition that FaZe is going 6 and 11 against over in European leagues against mostly European teams, and then look at what Liquid's doing. It's not like they have some kind of impressive match history in the past month. I mean, they're still losing to. They lost a best of 3 to Optic the other day, who I'm not very impressed by right now. Hellraisers gave them a really good run for their money, who I'm also not like super high on. So they're not doing a great job in North America either, which is a little bit scary. So they're very up and down. I think there's something like 2 and 4 right now in Pro League, so they haven't played too many matches, but still just a losing record against North American teams again. Also, it's just such a big question mark for Liquid. I think we have a much more known quantity in FaZe. We've seen each of Rain, AZ, and Jacob just dominate games that they have. Michael Ailey as well, big impact player. So there's 3 really big stars in that team. It does depend which one's going to show up, but I think Splyce is just going to get bodied. I think Fnatic and FaZe are going to listen to them cheer after winning a round and just start freaking laughing and just roll over them. I think Liquid has a big job ahead of them, but once again, it just comes back down to the fact that they're not even practicing with Adren for this. They might take like a week or 2 before the major, but for the most part, they're trying to integrate Kusta. They're going for the long game, which is smart, I think, in my opinion of them. But, I mean, this is essentially a team that's using a ringer for the major.
All right, well, let's leave that there. They were Groups A and B from the MLG Columbus Major, which takes place between the 29th and 31st of March. Check back in next week, where we'll cover Groups C and D, the last 2 groups. Now, before we move on to topic number 2, let's jump over and check in with Sadakist to see which CS fact he's got for us this week.
Thanks, Jack. When International Super Team Kingwin formed in May of 2015, they made headlines for signing players from 4 different countries. But did you know that they weren't the first team in CS history to make such a far-flung roster? Back in 2003, a team called NOA signed 5 players from different continents, let alone different countries. Their first-generation roster featured household names like Shagwire, Method, BSL, and divided the team across Canada, America, and Norway. Later rosters would add Swedes, Danes, and even more North Americans into the mix, making them one of the most international teams of all time. In 2007, NOA merged with MTW organization, becoming NTW.DK. They continued to dominate the Counter-Strike scene throughout 2008, becoming the esports team of the year.
For our second story this week, we're going to take a look at Virtus.Pro, because it's no secret they've been playing badly recently, but you might be surprised as to just how badly they've been playing. So, quick summary, they've lost 21 of their last 27 matches. They've only won 6 games in 2016, which, to say we're halfway through March, is not a good thing. In February, they lost 10 matches in a row across 2 tournaments, one of which was ESL's Pro League, where they currently are sat 2 for 14. And, that's demotion, down there in the demotion zone, essentially. So next season, they may not even be in Pro League. And lastly, they're not only getting beaten in these games, they're getting blown out. I think in 14 of 21 losses, Virtus.Pro have won fewer than 10 rounds versus their opponents. So, Jason, it's not looking good for the polls. As we get the Pro League standings up on screen, we've highlighted VP down there at the bottom. Just initially, Jason, at a high level, what's going wrong with these guys?
Just, individual drop-offs are killing them. I mean, it's not like they've changed something major strategically. Just you look at their two big players who even towards the end of last year, it was very apparent that this team was never going to succeed if guys like Byali and Snax didn't perform. And then Snax was having that segment towards the end of last year where he was just in God mode. He might have been, you could consider him for maybe even like a month, one of the best, like one of the top 3 players in the world. He was just going beast mode all the time. But that's a little bit crazy to imagine him being able to sustain that level, but he was masking a lot of those issues because you could still see they were struggling, but he was going so nuts it was really helping hide that fact. And then now you have him kind of return down to normal and even slump a little bit. You have Byali who is young and like we've seen really good things out of him over the past few years. Keep expecting him to continue to improve and make steps forward. He's actually taken a step back right now. He's in a slump. And then it's just at the point where this team was built with those two in mind to just be like the leading players, and to have Neo, Taz, Pasha, maybe one of them steps up every once in a while, but for the most part they were going to be pretty stable and just with their experience like that. And even Pasha's had better games than he did in last year. He's had some very good games here and there, but it's just not enough.
All right, well, let's take a look at 2 players in particular. You talked about Byali and Snax there, so as we have a look at Byali's graphic here, this is kind of a radar chart. We're plotting lots of different attributes for him against his... So the light blue circle is 2015, and we're comparing his 2016 performance in these categories on top of that. So we've got his HLTV rating at the top, kills per round, kill death ratio, assists per round, and I think entry kill rating as well. And, so for Byali, we can see he's fallen off in all of these areas, specifically, I guess none more so than rating and KDR, where he's gone from 1.03 to 0.82 in rating, and down in KDR, he's dropped right off from 1.07 to 0.78, so nearly a 0.3 drop in KDR, which isn't particularly great.
Yeah, it's just, and this is the thing. He's one of those killers. He plays some crucial roles on maps on their CT side as well. And also he's almost like a one-on-one specialist for them on the T sides at times, and that's such a crucial role to play. And for a guy who has this kind of like pinpoint aim, that like that railgun aim, or just at certain sections during a match, he just like doesn't miss. This kind of a drop off is just huge. And that's the thing, this team is just like missing kills at crucial moments. They're doing a really bad trading, which just suggests to me they lost maybe some confidence, and they do a really bad job of finding opening kills, and from there they just stagnate. It's insane to me that actually looking at this team, I think Neo has been one of their best players I've seen play in recent memory, just because he's consistent. It's not like he's exploding, although he has had some really good matches. He's doing very good work with the AWP as well. But, just because he's consistent, they can rely on what he's getting. Right now, there's no one other than Neo on Virtus.Pro that you can really rely on.
Last but not least, I've got some quickfire questions for you, Jason. So, quick as you can, give me your thoughts on the following news stories from the week. First of all, we talked about North American roster shuffles. Whitmer is trying out for Complexity, and Fraud has moved into a backup position.
Bummer for Fraud, but I think, and he even tweeted about it. He hasn't progressed as fast as he wanted or thought he would. And he's got to work on that. I actually had a little bit of a conversation with him, just talking about like his mental approach to the game. Because that was one of the criticisms I had for him coming back, was could he gain that mental edge to actually improve? And in the short term, or immediately after this pickup for like the last month or so, the answer is it wasn't there. But had a big discussion with him. He said he's been working really like much harder lately, like more death matching, more demos, just putting work in all across the board. So yeah, this has been a wake up call for him. The backup thing, I mean, I wouldn't put him in a backup. I'd just throw him into the fire. I don't think Whitmer's going to be the answer over him either. So I don't really it's actually kind of funny because Whitmer's from that Denial team that was that won Premier last season, and like it seems like most of them have gotten a chance. There's Denial, or I mean, there's Whitmer, Shinobi, Vice, Sick. All those guys have been on Complexity, TSM as well. Vice is now out. Whitmer's getting a chance. Sick is staying in TSM, but I mean, none of these guys have really been super impressive on the professional level. So I would have just left Fraud in there and just been like, more experience, keep going.
That's it for this week. I'm Jack Westerman, joined by Jason Moses O'Toole.
And we'll be back next Wednesday with another episode of PopFlash.